Hey, I'm Lana from Lana Glowshot Art, and in this video, we're unboxing the December 2025 SketchBox. This month's box is all about having fun with light and creating glowing effects. The surface in this month's box is the Stonehenge Aqua cold press paper, and we have 5 sheets of white paper and 5 sheets of black paper. Both of these surfaces are 140-pound, 100% cotton paper. This is a high-quality, sturdy surface that is going to be great for wet and dry media. Next, we have the SketchBox Signature Color Shift watercolors, featuring 5 colors that shift hue depending on your viewing angle. You'll also find a handy travel brush included that's perfect for working on the go. To set up your paintbrush, just unscrew the bristle section from the reservoir, fill the barrel with water, and then screw it back on. Give your handle a gentle squeeze to get the water flowing. Here, I'm squeezing a tiny bit of water into each pan, and I'm going to let that water sit for a moment to activate the paint. Your Color Shift watercolors include Hydrangea, Shimmer, Alarm, Mermaid, and Chartreuse. And in addition to these colors looking different based on the angle you're viewing them at, they also appear different on white paper versus black paper. Here are all of the same colors in order on the darker surface. Our next product is a 15 milliliter tube of the M. Graham Artist's Watercolor in Titanium White Opaque. This is a professional grade paint that is perfect for lightening and softening your colors. I use the top of my Color Shift palette to mix white into each of my colors. This allowed me to create beautiful pastel tints while also increasing my paint's opacity. This is a great option for layering on top of previous layers and for painting onto your dark surface. Just keep in mind that mixing titanium white into your Color Shift paints will tone down the shimmer a bit, and it's going to reduce that dual tone effect. But the trade-off is that you're going to get more predictable, lighter values, which is going to help you create a better balance between your light and dark areas in your final paintings. For these Color Shift watercolors, swatching is key. I strongly recommend that you create your own swatch card and keep it handy while you paint. That way you can always return to your swatches and shift them in the light so that you can anticipate what is going to happen when you apply that color to your painting. Next, we have the SketchBox Signature set of 6 colored pencils. These are artist quality, oil-based, and they have an incredibly smooth application and rich pigment. You'll be able to use these pencils before and after your watercolor layers, and they're great for adding structure and detail to your paintings. One of the darkest pencils in this set is Chocolate. On white paper, this pencil is perfect for adding deep details and shadows, but on black paper, this is a great option for your preliminary sketches, which I'll be demonstrating a little bit later. On the other end of our value scale, we have Robin's Egg, which is our lightest color. Here, I'm creating a smooth gradient between this light blue and blue spruce. And in between, I'm able to create some really rich blue-green transitions. Next up, we have Chartreuse, which is a yellow-green. And you can blend Chartreuse with blue spruce to create a more true green. Our final colors are Cream, which is a soft light yellow, and Cherry, which is a classic true red. Take some time to explore this beautifully curated set of colored pencils and play around with all the different colors you can create. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how to blend your colored pencils, I'll link a video about that topic in the video description and at the end of this video. Let's put all of these supplies together and create a simple illustration of some holiday lights, which is the prompt for this month. I began with my cherry colored pencil and I sketched in my design really light and loose. I began with a strand for my lights, and then I placed 5 roughly evenly spaced shapes that resemble the lights. For this, you don't need a photo reference, you don't need a ruler. Let it be a fun experimentation, and then if you want to get more precise later, you're more than welcome to. With my sketch complete, I transitioned to my Color Shift watercolors, and I laid down a light transparent wash of color in each of the bulbs. I added a decent amount of water for each of these so that I could start light and then build up darker layers as I progressed on. If the color that you put on your paper is too dark, don't stress out about it. Just give your paintbrush a little squeeze and that will deposit a bit more water. Each of the bulbs is one color in the palette without any other colors mixed in. But when I transitioned to the metallic connector and the wire for the strand, I wanted a new color. So I mixed up the chartreuse and the hydrangea. The pink and the yellow give me a bit of an orange color, and of course this is going to shift a little bit depending on your angle, but it's a great base for creating that gold strand that connects all of the lights. Allow this first layer of paint to dry completely, and then once it's dry, you can come back in with deeper washes of color. For each of these bulbs, I came in with the exact same color, but less diluted, and I concentrated this darker color around the edges of each bulb, but I left the center lighter so that I could create that glowing effect. I also left a little bit of a halo of lighter color around the very outside edge of the bulb, and that creates the illusion of that thin layer of glass. As you apply this step to each of your bulbs, it's the exact same procedure. That darker color on the outside and then allow it to get lighter by adding more water or just applying less paint as you move towards the center. With chartreuse being your very lightest color, this one will probably be the most challenging to create a larger value range, but don't worry about it because we're going to be able to add more detail and deeper colors when we come in with our colored pencils. That gold that I applied to the connectors and the wire is dry now, so I can come in with my colored pencils. And the goal with the pencils is to add a little bit of structure and detail, but not necessarily to define everything. So I come through and add some half circles on those connectors just to create that ridged texture. Then, as I move throughout the wire, I'm creating a few broken lines that look like they're twisting. If I took one deep, dark, solid line and went all the way across, it would feel almost like clip art and it would be way too literal. As I transition to the details in the bulbs, I look for a close corresponding color. For the bulb that I painted in hydrangea, cherry is a really great option, and I use cherry to come in around the edges of the bulb, still keeping that little thin halo around the outer edge that represents the glass. Here I'm focusing more pressure and darker color on the bottom edge of the bulb and then again a bit at the top. And I can even come in with chocolate to deepen this color a little bit more. For the bulb with the shimmer base, I also used cherry and chocolate, but to make it look a little bit more purple, I used more chocolate and less cherry than I did with the hydrangea bulb. For all of the bulbs, I'm applying a darker color towards the outside edge, and then I'm creating a little bit of a gradient, which is a blending technique where I ease up on my pressure as I move away from that darkest area. And that gradient is getting lighter as I move to the center. This soft transition allows me to create that glowing effect, which I'm going to further articulate with a few other steps. To illustrate that glowing light that is emanating out and away from the bulb, I'm going to use a wet on wet effect. Here I'm gently squeezing the reservoir of my paintbrush to apply some clean, fresh water right along the outside edge of the bulb. Then I'm dipping into hydrangea, the corresponding color for this bulb, and I'm just dabbing it into the water that I've already applied. This wet paint into wet water creates a much more organic application of the paint, which is perfect for those glowing effects. And it's fun to play around with how these effects differ slightly between each color. Now we're going to work on that glow from within the light bulb, and we're going to need one more supply in our box to do that. The white Prismacolor Premier colored pencil. This colored pencil is great for adding highlights and details on your black paper, and I'm going to show you how to use it to create that glowing effect in the center of your bulb. Use this white colored pencil and heavy pressure to begin to build up the brightest lights in the bulb, right below that metal connector at the top center. This white colored pencil is great for soft light, But for those bright, intense highlights, I strongly recommend that you turn to the titanium white opaque. Here, I'm picking up the paint straight out of the tube and using it for the highlights on the bulb. Keep these arcing around the bulb and break them up a bit so it isn't one long line that feels really harsh. The last item in this month's box is the Sakura Pen Touch in gold. This 1mm paint pen is a great way to add some festive embellishments to your pieces, but it does need to be activated before you use it. Give it a shake and then press the tip into your paper several times until the ink begins to flow. This pen does have a bit of an odor, so make sure that you're using it in a well-ventilated space. This gold was perfect for the finishing touches on this strand of lights. Just like the colored pencils, I didn't make my gold line really harsh or solid. Instead, I broke it up in little chunks and used it to just add some shimmer and finishing touches. Let's do one more drawing of holiday lights together, this time on our black surface so we can see how the techniques change with a different surface color. Here I'm sketching in my initial design with the chocolate colored pencil, and this darker colored pencil on dark paper allows my initial sketch to be a little bit more flexible. Then I can anchor in the final details with a lighter color. For this design, I'm focusing on basic shapes. So some curves for the fir sprigs in the tree, some circles for ornaments, and I want everything to be really simple. I have a lot of flexibility with these materials and I can always change and tweak something later. After completing the second pass of my sketch with the cream colored pencil, I dove in with my color shift watercolors. And here I am using just the hydrangea color to lay in a base color for this ornament. I paint the entire ornament with this color, leaving one little geometric shape that is curving around the sphere as a reflection. And this is going to help that ornament feel more reflective. And then I do the exact same thing for the second ornament, but this time with the color shimmer. I make sure to change up that shape a bit, keeping the arcing geometric personality, but not making it the exact same, so that these two ornaments feel like distinctly different objects. For the pine needles in the tree, I used mermaid and a combination of mermaid and chartreuse for a variety of different greens. And I played around with my mark, lots of energy, lots of movement, and I didn't try to take anything too literally or too seriously here. There are a lot of ways to create variety in your greens in this painting. Here, I'm adding more water to my mermaid color to achieve a darker green when I apply it on the black paper. You could also add some white to any of the green mixtures you create for some lighter tints. This piece is all about the glow of the lights, so make sure that you're building them up early. Here, I'm applying some strong bright white to the center of all of my lights, and then I am adding a bit of color so that I've got that nice tint. The colors I used for the lights were hydrangea, which gave me pink, mermaid, which gave me that bluish green color, and chartreuse, which gave me the yellow. As you apply your lights, imagine how they are interacting with the environment around them. Here I have a light really close to an ornament, so I'm going to reflect some of the blue in that light on the reflective sphere of that shape. Make sure that your paint layer dries first, but once it does, you can use your colored pencils to begin to layer texture. Do this in the fir tree first, and I encourage you to use all of your colored pencils here. I used chocolate for the branches, I used robin's egg, cream, chartreuse, and blue spruce for the actual pine needles, and I even added in a bit of cherry here and there for more contrast and interest. I really like to build my entire painting or drawing up together. So now that I have more detail in my tree, I'm going to add some more detail to my lights and ornaments. Beginning with the lights, I'm using a watered down wash of color around the outside edge. So for the pink light, I'm using watered down hydrangea. No white is used in this glaze of color, and that helps to create that really nice glow effect. Apply the exact same technique for your lights in mermaid and chartreuse. Using these holiday lights as inspiration, I am going to lighten up some other strategic parts of my painting, and I'm going to start with the branches. Here I'm mixing up a light green with a combination of mermaid, chartreuse, and white. And then I'm applying that near the lights so that I have that really strong illusion of the light spilling into the environment. At this point, my painting is quite cool, and I really am craving some warmth. So I grabbed the cherry colored pencil and I began to add some more color to this particular ornament. I also bounce around throughout the painting, adding a little bit of the cherry to the lights, focusing on the outer edge and keeping that a little bit darker. Now, to make this ornament look really shiny, I'm coming in with the titanium white opaque, and I'm applying thick paint right out of the tube onto the surface of this ornament. I want these reflections to be geometric, but to be arcing around the sphere so that it really feels like these highlights are part of the surface. I'm also going to use this strong white in the center of each of my little holiday lights that are glowing throughout the tree. And of course, if I want to soften any of those highlights or I want to add a more subtle light value, I can use my Prismacolor white colored pencil. The Sakura Pen Touch Gold is a perfect supply to leave towards the end of your process because it layers so beautifully over the top of both the watercolor and the colored pencils. Here I'm using it at the top of the ornament as the connector to the tree, and I'm leaving little black spaces that represent those reflections, just like I did for the ornaments. Then I pull this gold throughout the entire piece for my lights. And just like I did for the strand of lights on white paper, I'm intentionally breaking that line so that it doesn't feel too harsh or aggressive. I thought I would be done with this piece when I finished the lights, but after I stepped back, I felt like this piece needed a little bit more red. So I added some more red to the ornament, and then I used that cherry colored pencil to add some small red berries throughout the piece. I felt that this final touch really helped me balance all of the different colors, and I was really pleased with the results. And now this piece is complete. I hope you learned a ton about illustrating light and working with these color shift watercolors. We can't wait to see what you create, so be sure to use the hashtag SketchBoxDecember when you post your work online. For more unboxing videos and tutorials, you can check out our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.